What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of Fantasy in Progress. This time I got it right. This time I got the name right.
Yeah.
First try.
Wow.
First
Are
try.
you recording?
I am recording. See,
Wow.
I'm on my game.
You did it.
I'm up my game.
It only took us 5 episodes, but we got it perfect at the first go.
Yeah, well, intro might be a little bit different. Welcome to Fantasy in Progress, a point in progress podcast about Final Fantasy 14 and the critically acclaimed Heaven's Ward and everything else. I'm joined by two amazing people. Fee, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I was just waiting for you to skip up or like mess up intros. I was just also I'm gonna be honest.
So much faith.
Whenever you guys whenever you edit this, I always am making like a really weird face at the beginning of the episode. And so I'm like, this time I'm not gonna be making a weird face at the beginning of the episode.
You'd be
And
surprised
so-
how I'm gonna edit this.
Oh my god. Well,
We always somehow capture you in 4K.
Yeah.
yeah, I've been doing really great. I tried out a thing in Final Fantasy 14 today, and I'm doing pretty good because now I can get really cool pictures and go back and get really cool pictures of certain cuts.
Like photo mode?
So there's an add-on that you can get into the game called G-Shade. And so I showed her that, and now she's gonna go back to Amric for dinner and redo that cutscene, and then
I gotta enable that too. I do like the way it looks. I didn't think it was available for Final Fantasy, but
is
it looks
crazy.
Yeah, it
There
is
it
crazy.
makes
so
it makes
much.
games look really good. You can technically apply that to any video game, and it'll look totally different.
Yeah. I can't play without it now. And then the other person on the panel, Frank, how you doing?
Good. I just got back literally like 10, 15 minutes ago, right? 20 minutes ago from watching No Time to Die. So I'm ready to talk
He's
about
like-
that tomorrow. But
Yeah, I was gonna
today
say,
we're talking about
tomorrow.
Final Fantasy.
Tomorrow's our actual podcast. But yeah, so this episode is going to be all about Dragonsong Wars. So it's going to be pretty much from 3.1 to about 3.3. Maybe we'll touch in a little bit of 3.4. But honestly, 3.4 is just kind of like a starter to Stormblood. It's like the starting thing for Stormblood. But on that note, for post Heaven's Ward, after getting through it, what did you think about the story? Because I don't know if a lot of games do this where they end a story like Heaven's Ward. Sorry, I'm talking about Stormblood for some reason. Heaven's Ward.
Mhm.
They ended Heaven's Ward 3.0, and then they kept on going in subsequent patches to continue the story. I guess the main story was Thoradin, and then is dealing with the dragons.
Yeah.
What did you think about that kind of format, Fee?
From someone playing it like in succession without having to wait months between of them, like I was just like, okay, this makes sense. But I could also understand almost like the hype of people who were playing it at the time, because you finally get to beat Thoradin, which, by the way, F you Thoradin, trash, you deserve to die. And then you kind of realize like, okay, it's almost like a Disney movie where it's just like, oh great, like Snow White marries the prince, but then like what happened after? Because there's still going to be repercussions that happen after that particular point. And so it was really kind of cool to be able to see like, okay, you killed Thoradin, but there's other things in play and other things that you wrap up, because that's just not the end game. That it's not like, okay, everything's put back to place, everyone accepts the dragons, everyone is okay with Amric taking, like, essentially being the leader of the city, while they kind of realize and try to figure out what's happening with the Foundation and just overall just like what their people are going to do, because they've been living in such a way for thousands of years. So it was really cool to be able to see like what they needed to do next. Where are they going to go from there?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you said, like the Thoradin part was like the main crux of it, but like there's always underlying, because like even going up to Thoradin, when we're going into the fight or going into that part, there was always like that little undercurrent where like, what if this succeeds? What's gonna happen? How is this gonna destabilize the people of Ishgard, and how is that gonna affect everybody around in a way, right? Like, how is that gonna affect Eorzea in general, right? So those questions were always looming, and finally getting some sort of conclusion to the dragon story was actually, it was probably one of the most satisfying stories to conclude. Like, it was concluding a story. What do you think, Frank? What do you think about that format?
I think so from ARR to this, I would say ARR and its post stuff kind of felt like a movie almost. You know what I mean? Where it seems like they kind of wrapped something up and then restarted something new and then wrapped that thing up in its post and everything like that, and then kind of left you with a cliffhanger. Whereas Heavensward kind of felt like its own bigger. It felt kind of more like a TV show almost. And this feels like maybe another season of that TV show. The story never seems to kind of end. You get a ending with, its main kind of overarching story, but it still leaves you with a little bit like extra there. It's like, okay, guys, we're going to see what happens when the war is over, and we're going to see, the aftermath. We're going to see how these people now live their lives because the big spectacle is over. So we're starting to see like the little aftermaths of like kind of everybody's actions. And I think that format's really cool because in other games, you don't really ever get that satisfaction that you probably want of seeing your favorite characters just kind of hanging out. You know what I mean? Or just doing stuff that of the aftermath of the big spectacle that they did. It usually ends at the boss battle. Everybody's happy. And then you get like maybe a sequel down the road where you see them 2 years later and there's all that story that you never really see. Final Fantasy is very unique because it is, since it is an MMO, can give you a more episodic like chunk of just lore with the characters around you, which is interesting because that's what makes those characters so unique. You get to actually spend time with them, and even though they are scripted characters and it's very limited to what you can really do with them, you get to see them in other cases. You get to see them just kind of be lax and have to make, the decisions that they now have to deal with because of what happened in the main story.
Yeah,
and that's fascinating. And that's why I kind of like this series so far. And that's why I liked Heavensward. It's because it gave you a little bit extra to really kind of connect to these characters than it did with ARR or anything like that.
Yeah, because ARR felt overwhelming to the point where like overwhelming stuff wasn't great. Mm-hmm. But when it came to Heavensward, they're like, here's a patch with 12 quests, right? They're meaningful 12 quests. Like these quests are going to progress the story. They're going to show you how Estinian is feeling, what Estinian is going through, having the eye, both eyes of Nidhogg, and seeing him possessed by Nidhogg and seeing what actions that he takes, and seeing characters going through emotions that you never saw in post ARR. I don't feel like you saw that in any post ARR, except maybe, I don't remember if Moonbreeder was after ARR. I think it was.
Yeah, that was in the patches.
That was in the patches, right? Yeah. So you got to hit like some emotional highs, but I feel like because the length of how long post ARR was, I felt like it diminished a lot of those kind of things. Where in Heavensward, you only got 3 patches, maybe 30 quests to finish Heavensward and get like that conclusion to the Nidhogg storyline.
Yeah, that's why I say it feels more like a TV show, whereas like AR just felt like one big story wrapping itself up and starting something new. Yeah. Whereas in the post Heavensward stuff, they don't crowd the main story of Heavensward. You get what they promise you by the end of Heavensward. You're just seeing the aftermath of it, and it's given to you in these little bite-sized chunks, which feel like small arcs themselves. And by the end of all these arcs, you get like a resolution to almost everything that's kind of been building up to, and then kind of passing the torch to what's going on next.
Yeah, exactly. I think that their storytelling. This is because this is a storytelling that they're going to solidify for. They solidified for Heavensward. They do it for Stormblood, and they do it for Shadowbringer. So like that, it is a very cool little extra story that you get, because like any kind of loose ends, that's how they kind of tie them all together and stuff like that. One thing that I'm gonna jump around a little bit and talk about the Eyes of Nidhogg. I'm so sick of the Eyes of Nidhogg.
So sick of the fucking Eyes of Nidhogg.
So we are far enough in the story now to know what happens finally to the eyes, but I wanna go after the whole fight is done, and we'll double back into the ending, or when we get to the actual fight. Why do you throw the eyes into the abyss?
I thought that was the dumbest shit they've ever done. Like, it makes sense as characters, but I'm like, what are we doing here?
I'm like, I have a massive claymore on my back. I have just killed Nidhogg with it. I am more than happy to take said claymore and just stab them.
Yeah, just
You
give
know
them a
what? You
little
can throw
light
the
jab.
pieces into the. You can throw them into the abyss after we've cut them in half and destroyed them. Like, do whatever you want to do afterwards. But this was the dumbest thing. Oh, no one's gonna be able to fly down there. Let me just throw them in. I have never been so irritated than by
So
watching that happen.
disrespected.
Because it's just like we just dealt with this. Like we've been dealing with the Nidhogg this entire expansion. He's been nothing but a burden at this point. Like we understand Nidhogg, you went through a lot, but so has everybody else. And I'm not trying to downplay your issues, but like your like rage and like revenge seeking habits have gone beyond the grave, and for that reason your eyes needed to be destroyed. You know what, they should have pulled an Inuyasha, broke that shit into a billion pieces and spread it on the vast edges of the world, and then just like locked them into some sort of like lock boxes. I don't know, I don't care.
They should have cut it up like a watermelon and gave a piece to like every scion. Just like, here's a piece.
Gotta collect all the scions.
What are we doing with then we're gonna be vengeful because
got a wedge of
curse us.
Aren't most of the scions together like most of the time?
Yeah, so it'll probably all come together at some point.
Whoopsie daisy, we just created the left eye of Nidhogg by being in this room.
It's like you have this eye who everybody knows can basically have enough power to summon a primal or destroy an EMP shield from like the Garleans, so we just throw it out. Like,
yeah,
we're supposed to kill primals, not actually just like let them live just in case they, nobody finds us in a world where there's dragons and can fly probably down there.
I don't know if you need a certain when it happens in Stormblood, because I don't know if you need an actual like what kind of weapon you need to actually destroy them. Maybe something that's imbued with something to destroy the eyes of Nidhogg. I don't remember. I must have missed something in the story if they said anything about that.
Well, because
the eyes get absorbed, right?
Yeah, he uses his lance. Yeah. So I don't know if that lance is like has something
enough
like that's bestowed on it that he can do that.
I mean, it's
maybe because he is the Azura Dragoon.
Nidhogg.
Yeah, maybe because he is the Azura Dragoon that he has the capabilities of doing that.
Probably.
Yeah, right.
But why didn't he do it?
He was passed out, I think.
I
right?
know he was passed out at the time, but someone else could have picked it up.
Yeah,
like
100%.
we could have just, you know what? We pull an iPhone situation, we put it in his hands, and then we just to get him to like, you know what?
Stinian,
like
get your lifeless body off the floor. Let me use your hands.
Really weekends at Birnium.
Yeah, it's Weekend at Bernie's, but it's like Weekend with the Stinian, and we're gonna take out Nidhogg's eyes because this could have helped us deal with a lot of things and maybe didn't cause even more freaking problems throughout Storm.
Yeah, because that was a crux at the end of the Dragonsong War, like leading up to Stormblood was the Shinryu stuff, because Ilver taking the eyes and fusing together.
Yeah, because that's how the eyes are now technically destroyed, is that they got absorbed in that whole.
Yeah,
debacle.
and then Astadian came in and destroyed the last eye, and so now there are no more eyes left. They're gone now.
No more.
But so going into Nidhogg, what did you guys think of the Nidhogg fight itself?
Oh, amazing!
Because this is one of my favorite fights in the game because of how grand it feels. Because we fight this guy 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? We fight him in a dungeon. We fight him. Do we fight him a second time somewhere else?
Yeah, you fight him the first time, and then Astinian kills him the second time, I believe. He only takes an eye the first time, I believe.
Yeah, and then it's this primal fight.
And then it's the primal fight. Yeah.
But the music with I forgot what the song's name is. Not Answers, because that's A Realm Reborn.
It's called Dragonsong.
Dragonsong, yeah, Dragonsong. That playing while you're fighting and seeing how much like it swells when you're fighting like actually Astinian instead of Nidhogg It is so
Mhm.
good. It is so damn good.
Yeah, that song has a lot of context in that fight
Yeah.
because it's a song about why do we fight? Why are you like my children? Why are you fighting? You know, we're all part of this world. You know, we shouldn't be doing this. And it talks about the the relationship of Shiva and I can
Mid
never remember his name.
Midgar Stormer.
Midgard Summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It talks about the relationship between those two and how that love grew and destroyed itself because of what happened. And it's just a series of just the whole story is kind of sad because it's just a series of misunderstandings on everybody's part.
Yeah.
And everybody's technically wrong in this. Nobody is right because dragons are killing people on the lie and the people are killing the dragons on the lie. And it was all built on love of all things. The war.
Yeah. That's also one of the big crux of the war is like, so humans or man can only stay alive for so long, and dragons stay alive forever, pretty much, for a long time. So that war is always going to be a thing, because as long as one person still keeps with like, still has those feelings towards another race, that war is never going to end, right? The
Yeah.
dragons will never stop coming for man,
Mhm.
for all that has happened, and all it is a misunderstanding. All of it is a misunderstanding, but trying to convey that to an opposing force is tough to do,
Yeah, it's hard
especially
to
when you're
relate
not
a-
there, because like this has been happening for years. The people like the Amric wasn't there when this war started, so he's
No.
just trying
Mhm.
to like do his best to like diffuse the situation. Mostly everybody on the dragon side was there.
Yeah.
Right? And then there was just all this other stuff happening with like Tiamat and stuff like that too, with her, and then seeing Nidhogg go through all of that is just, yeah. What do you think about it, B? About the fight?
It was very emotional for a multitude of reasons, mostly like one, the cutscene itself, because we got to see fallen friends help us with the ending. But as a tank, that fight was definitely a lot of fun. It was a lot of running around and trying to juggle a bunch of things, and like I felt fairly. I think it was one of the first times I also made sure that I watched the video beforehand. So it was this like I know everything that's happening in this fight. So I was like going through and like I felt really like good about that particular fight, and I thought I did pretty well the first time I went through it. But yeah, I think the song itself really added to it, and I know it made it more difficult for me because it's like very emotional. So obviously, as everyone listening knows, I'm a huge ball of mess when things get emotional. So that definitely added a little layer of difficulty to the entire experience. But it was a great way to like end it. It was emotional on Nidhogg's side, on Helsvegger, on uh, us, obviously, because we had to take steps to make sure that not only did we take out Nidhogg, but making sure that we didn't kill Estinian, or
Yeah.
at least trying to save our friend, because we like it was the same thing with Thancred and ARR. Like we didn't want to kill Thancred, but we knew that to be able to stop one evil, we may have had to sacrifice a friend.
Yeah.
So it was, even though I wasn't a fan of Estinian for a very large portion.
For pretty much the entire time he was with Ysayle.
Yeah, he's a little too based. He's a little too based in the beginning.
Yeah, and then like you know what? There's just some certain things, and it definitely wasn't the fact that he took off his helmet. It was like,
Oh,
no, I'm just
never even
joking.
thought about that.
It was just overall. I think he like this was a defining moment that like just added to even more. Just like this is like a like a huge like not only a competitor when it comes to like other MMOs, but just like overall the story itself.
Yeah.
Because it felt like that was a good closing to everything that had happened.
Yeah, that Estinian part is so amazing.
Yeah.
So good. Especially with seeing Lady Iceheart and Hashifan again. It's definitely one of those scenes that it seems like right afterward, because we throw the fucking eyes right over the bridge, that we don't really learn a lesson. But the cycle of bloodshed has to end. And if we kill Justinian, then that cycle had just continued. You know what I mean? So they really do try to make sure they save that man, because they've already killed, basically that there's what 3 people dead right there. Like Hashafant and Lady Iceheart. They already lost enough friends. They can't lose another.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we had 2 deaths in Heaven's Word, and I'm trying to think of Stormblood. We
did lose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
we did lose one character.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get there. For the next one, we'll get there
one day.
One day. So leading through into after Heaven's Ward, finishing Dragonsong War.
Yep.
Seeing one of the best things for me, one of the cappers of that entire story, is seeing Horshavan's dad, his father, writing the story, and just you could feel like the sigh of relief after he was done, and he's just like, "That's it. That's all I need to do. I'm done.
The war is over."
Yeah. He is one of my. He's rising to be going through the story again. He's rising to be one of my favorite characters of Heaven's Ward, because sure, we see it through his eyes because he was there back then. Well, not back then, but like he's one of the houses, like one of the forefront people for the houses, and just seeing everything through his eyes and seeing how his reactions are to stuff, and just how his reactions to his from his kids and stuff like that. It was really, really cool to see that, because it's different from the next ones where we have like Stormblood, we have Lys, and then for Shadowbringers we have Aardbart, right? So it's very different. Aardbart, I feel like, is very close for me when it comes to a person that's like kind of running the expansion.
Yeah, because nobody understands that expansion. Nobody understands what the hero of light's going through more than a hero of light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of sacrifices you have to make for the greater good.
Yeah.
So yeah. This DLC was sad.
Now that we're done, Heaven's Ward completely. What is your guys' favorite character in the entire thing? I'm gonna go with you, Fee. Who is your favorite character? She's currently thinking.
Yeah, I am, because like, okay, we all know how I feel about Amrik. Amrik is definitely
Prince Thirst Trap.
Yeah.
He is definitely a pinnacle. But a particular character that was like, I think like a good one to specifically mention when it came to like Dragonsong was like kind of like the post Dragonsong, where we were just like kind of like almost like the lead up to what we were doing in not Shadowbringers, Stormblood. Was we got is that around the time that we started to have oh my goodness, Alizé with us?
Yes.
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 She comes back.
Yeah, so she comes back. That was like, I want to put that as like a recognition point, like not my absolute favorite character, but no, I would probably have to say Edmund. Like, I would agree with Edmund. Like, Edmund was definitely a pinnacle, and it was such a prolific character that. And what's kind of a bummer with being a Dark Knight is you end up in the Foundation quite a bit, and a lot of it has to do sometimes with House Fortom, and like you see him and you get incredibly upset because the voice actor, as we all know, unfortunately just recently passed away back in September. And so it just has like a whole new like meaning to it, especially when it gets to like voice cutscenes. The Dark Knight ones are obviously not voice acted, but it was just that in particular. So yeah, I would there was just too many good characters. That's, I think, my I'm stumbling over and trying to think of it.
Yeah.
Because there's like Edmund, Honchefont, Lady Iceheart.
As much as you hate Thoradin, I think the guy that plays Thoradin, I think his delivery and his trying to convince Amrik what is happening, his performance was so well done. So well done. And then seeing him at the very end when you finished Arf, and he goes into this fucking, I am judgment. I'm gonna judge everybody, and if you sin, I'm gonna take you out, kind of type thing. It's just so good. It is such a powerful performance from him.
And I like it, the fact that like it kind of translates to what Lady High's Heart was in ARR. Was, here's someone who believes truly and profoundly that what they're doing is the right thing to do. Even though they might, like, for us, we might think it's evil, but to them, this is the only option. This is the all-knowing, this is the only option for either their people or specifically for themselves to benefit. And I think Thornton was in the idea of, we've been fighting for so long, there's no way to fix this. There's no way to resolve this, and the only way for this to get resolved is for me to take the steps that he took, which essentially means turning himself into a primal and going apeshit crazy, and then unfortunately taking a few wrong paths by agreeing to work with the my god, why can I never remember their name?
Asians.
Because I always for some reason get Asians and Scions slightly mixed up. Like when it comes specifically word wise, I know there's a major difference and I know the differences, but the names themselves, why? But that it's a very difficult time trying to figure out your favorite character. Like, at least for me, my favorite character. And
oh no, this whole time you just gave me the whole time to figure out mine.
oh wow, I'm so happy for you.
What's yours, Frank?
One thing I just want to say really quick. I find it very interesting, the Knights of the Round's kind of ideals and what they were trying to do, and how much it parallels where we are right now in our current DLC, of how that kind of world of rule kind of what that would bring. I mean, like having, light kind of be the dominant thing.
Yeah.
It kind of, it could have been an early where we are, but we'll get to that when I have more to kind of go on when we talk about that DLC. But yeah, Hraesvelgr is my favorite character of that whole DLC. I think his story is tragic, sad. He really, every time he's on screen with his voice and just how he's telling his stories and stuff like that, I feel like I could sit there for hours and listen to that character just tell us stuff, and about what happened in the past and everything like that. And his story with Shiva being basically the catalyst of war, and out of desperation and love, what he had to do to her, and what he had to sacrifice of himself for Nidhogg because of his rage.
Yeah.
And then what he has to sacrifice in himself to make sure that this war stops being as bloody as it thought. It got out of control. It was built out of rage, and his rage manifested something greater than what was really all that necessary for anything. And then just that reveal when he's fighting Nidhogg, when he's fighting the whole thing, and Nidhogg has him on the ropes, and he's just like, "What's up, dude?" And then he opens up his eyes, and he has no eyes.
Yeah, he had no eyes.
And he had given the Warrior of Light his eyes, giving him his power. That was so fucking
such
cool.
A hype freaking moment.
Yeah,
it was such a hype moment.
Damn well Hraesvelgr would have been able to take out Nidhogg's eyes, but he made sure that the Warrior of Light had enough time to get there so that Nidhogg had nowhere to go.
Yeah. It was a diversion tactic. It was a diversion tactic. Yeah.
That character, I love everybody else, and don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't like the House of Four Tom stuff and anything like that. I love everything there. It's just the biggest part of the story is the Hraesvelgr Lady Shiva stuff, and I feel like they always handled him from when he was introduced to where it ends perfectly.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of the dragons. I am going to go with the sucker. I'm the sucker in the room where Haurchefant is still one of my favorite characters of all of Heaven's Ward. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire game, even going through Shadowbringers, but he's probably top 5 for me, top 4. Just the way that he gets introduced into the game in A Realm Reborn, and then really fleshed out in Heaven's Ward, and then following his death, and then seeing him one last time in Dragonsong War, and just I was like, man, it's the perfect send off. He had a great send off in A Realm Reborn or in Heaven's Ward, but seeing that final send off with him and Ysael and needing their strength to take the eyes out and be like, yeah, that's the last deed that he ever needed to do. Right
Yeah,
there.
it's that moment where your character's looking, he's like, the fuck? And he smiles at you, and then your character just knows, like, yeah, and he smiles back. It's just like, oh,
it's not us being the hero in that moment. It's him being the hero, which is something that he's always wanted to be, because he always looks up to heroes, right? He always looks up to a person like you or somebody else, but this time it's him that's being the hero in the story.
And his father makes sure that happens too.
Yeah.
Because he's probably heard the tales of other heroes and, like, the Azure Dragoons and all these other people, right?
Yeah.
And it's so fitting that his father is the one who writes all what happened to him and his struggles and what he did to make sure this war ended on paper, thus immortalizing him as a hero for generations to come, for more Hashafons down the road and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's an amazing send-off for the character. Amazing.
So going away from Dragonsong War to the end of this expansion, right? Leading up to Stormblood, we had the stuff happening, the Ilberd becoming Shinryu with Omega coming out as well. We got the introduction of Gogetsu at the very end as well. Some more Yagiri. And then also, was it Papalimo? Sacrificing himself, himself, and then we finally get the reveal that Yida has been dead for a long time, and it's Lise that has taken over her mantle, and going into Stormblood. What did you guys think about the whole setup going into Stormblood?
Fuck, man, it sucks losing another person of the Scions.
Yeah,
especially when
seems like we're dropping like flies.
Yeah, it's sad because it's like. It all could have been avoided. One being if we destroyed those goddamn eyes.
Yeah.
And two, it's just like it's another tipping point of just what happened with Alamigo, and people are around liberating and fighting wars for the area of Heaven's Ward, but Alamigo is still unheard of, and people around them are at their tipping points for it. So. It sucks. It's a war it's a small little war that could have been avoided.
Yeah. What do you think, Fee? What do you think about the getting Stormblood ready, jumping into Stormblood? So the quest before that. So us going through going through like Balestar's Wall, seeing Ilberd, going through the whole process with Papalimo and Lise.
I cannot tell you how happy and also just angry that I was to see that Ilberd died. I was just like, peace out, happy to see you go. Like, yes, it was very unfortunate what led up, like what happened afterward, but his character as a whole, just like, it was a constant reminder that just like, I think like, yeah, there was a few things that happened to us in ARR, but that was a massive betrayal on his part, because we worked with him during ARR. We worked with him to gather the group together. We were with him in Mordona. We were in Mordona with him, and we were collecting groups to go specifically back to Ul'dah, and we worked with him when it came to like just overall with Hashafont, and then seeing him betray us, and then finally seeing his demise. It was very exciting, but I didn't want him to die the way that he did. Did I wish that he was just locked up and then never seen again? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this also kind
of sacrificing himself to become Shinryu is a little weird, right?
Yeah. And that was.
It was always for Alamigo,
Yeah.
That's all he ever said was for Alamigo.
I think this was also a great example on just kind of like reminding us that while there was things happening in Ishgard and we were dealing with that, there were still things happening in Ul'dah and in other areas, and I think that kind of goes into play during Stormblood and with oh my goodness, Stormblood and Shadowbringers, where we're seeing that meanwhile, because we don't realize we don't really have like that understanding or hint that there's other things happening outside of Ishgard.
Yeah, you kind of forget, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. We don't ever really get a meanwhile during like Heaven's Ward that isn't like directly in Ishgard.
I
Yeah.
think the main thing is that because like when you leave the Dragonsong War, Ishgard for the most part is what it is. Like it's in a good place.
Yeah.
It's in a good place. When we get into Stormblood, when we're leading up to Stormblood, the meanwhile is happening because there's so many moving pieces now, right? There's stuff that's happening at the front of Stormblood, and then there's stuff happening in the Imperial Palace with Xenos and his dad. So there's like a lot of shit happening internally in the Guardian Empire as well as shit that's happening on like the front. So that's why you kind of have to do the meanwhile when it comes to that. We'll get into Stormblood and our critiques and stuff like that once we get into that point. But go on.
Yeah, no, it's just like a lot of times when you're playing a video game, or if you're kind of going through the like even certain shows, or like anytime that we kind of see like the prolific hero going through a like quest and stuff like that, they just constantly are at a win. Everything's a win, and yeah, there's going to be a few losses, but then it's kind of like the story moves with that character. But this kind of gave us a reminder that it's live things are happening at the exact same time, even though we might not have known about it. And I think that kind of gave it a little bit more life and a little bit more realistic intention overall, just because it's not something that you would really take into consideration. Like, oh, there's still things happening while I'm like in Ishgard, and there's other like Illigbird and everyone else, and with Robon and the Sultana and all the other leaders, they're like, we've been dealing with stuff on like our own stuff while you were away. And so I think it's just, at least for me, like when you play things like God of War, or even like in World of Warcraft, you're just like, oh, I'm the hero, like even though World of Warcraft doesn't have a story, like I'm not gonna lie. But it's just kind of nice to have that kind of like realism. It's almost yeah, I know I joked around a lot during Heaven's Word that it was like Game of Thrones, but there was a lot of things happening at once, even in Ishgard, but outside of it. And I think it was the only way for it to lead to things like Stormblood. And yeah, there's even more pieces in Stormblood, and even more things happening in Shadowbringers. But it was a weird thing for him to do, for him to sacrifice himself to summon a primal, because you would assume that if you've caused so much havoc and chaos and you actually want to see the world burn, that you'd stay and watch it burn instead of sacrificing yourself, because you've sacrificed so many other people. Why not sacrifice someone else? I'm just shocked that he just didn't push someone else off the freaking.
He just thought it was his calling. You know, this is what he's meant to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't like the guy. I really don't like the guy. And then I like no spoil, like, you know what, I'm specific, like side note, you see him in the Dark Knight story quest, and I'm like, I left you in fucking post Dragonsong.
Why are you here?
Stop showing up
here. You need to go back there. I thought you were like a pancake. At
a pancake.
Well, I mean, he technically was.
Yeah, he was a pancake. He got flattened like an egg.
Yeah, he got flattened. But no, I think this was a great way. And like and I said this to you like in messages, like Alize is already becoming like, in her kind of like this short while that we had with her, and we went and dealt with some of the beast tribes, it was like really nice to like have those types of conversations with her, because you kind of get to see her side, and then she wants to know what it's been like traveling and exploring and doing adventures with her brother.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. And
the contrast between the two, like I was saying to you before, was like she's the go-getter, she wants to get shit done. Alize is more the politician, where he's like, how is this gonna affect us?
It's
Alpha Note is more the politician, where he just like, how is this gonna affect us? How is this gonna affect the Scions? What do we do to go forward? Alice is more, we got to get this shit done. If you're not with me, then you're gonna be left behind. We have to go do this.
I don't know. I didn't like realize how much I wanted a character like that until we had more interactions with her.
Yeah.
And having her at the end of Dragonsong, I think it was really refreshing, because there was a lot of politics involved in Heaven's Ward. There was a lot of things where different moving parts where people couldn't just instantly go and kill their dad, or they couldn't go and do X, Y, and Z. And she's just like, I'm not here to mess around. We're doing this stuff. We're doing it now. We're going out and talking to these beast tribes. We're gonna go out, and if we have to kill someone, then you know what?
So be it.
That's what's gonna happen. But it
But
was
she
just
still
kind of
has a
like,
level head though about it.
oh no,
Right.
absolutely. She's not crazy. By the way, I just want to like kind of like retract. Yeah, she's not absolutely nuts. So it's not like let's go kill people and like running around with a machete. But she's definitely a go-getter, and she's when she has her mind set on something, she's not kind of questioning.
Yeah.
Or she's not like, oh, I need 5-10 people telling me to do that. We're kind of seeing that at the end of Dragonsong, where Elfino does have more confidence, but he's still kind of struggling with making like specific instructions or setting up plans.
Yeah, making decisions.
He has a hard time being a leader.
Yeah.
Alize's like, I've been by myself for an entire expansion and a half, and now we get shit done. And if you want to join me, by all means. But if you don't want to, I'm already gone. Kind of
We took out Bahamut. What you guys do?
I mean, they
You
both
guys
took out
do.
Bahamut. We
True.
haven't went through the story yet, so we're,
Yeah.
we're gonna do that at some point. At some
Harv
point.
spoiled it for us.
But yeah, so I have it hard out today, so this is gonna be a shorter episode than we usually have. I just
Yeah.
want to get your guys' just 1 to 2 sentence summary of what you guys think about going into about Heavensward. Because now we're done Heavensward. We're not gonna discuss Heavensward after this. We'll probably discuss it, comparatively, but when it comes to like story, we're moving on to Stormblood for the next episode. Well, the next episode is gonna be the media tour stuff. After that, it's gonna be Stormblood. But yeah. So what in like 1 to 2 sentences, Frank, what do you think of Heavensward?
I think it's the one to beat. It's the story to beat out of all the DLCs so far. It's well written, and I love it.
Yeah.
The music's good too, by the way.
Oh.
Music is fucking amazing in Heavensward.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Give me your 1 to 2 sentence overview, summary of Heavensward.
It was nice to have the ventures that we did with our friends throughout the way, and 9 out of 10, not enough Amber.
9 out of 10, not enough Amric.
You had an entire dinner with him.
You got a dinner with him that you didn't get poisoned at.
I'm joking.
Her entire screenshot folder is Amric.
No, it's not. Okay, first of all, it's absolutely not. No, I agree with Frank. It's definitely the one to beat. And honestly, probably one of my favorite storylines in video games.
Oh, that gets me really excited because like we're about halfway through Shadowbringers right now, and
Depression bringers.
Depression bringers. But man, I can't wait till the end of Shadowbringers. I can't wait to see what you guys think about that because Shadowbringers to me is one of the best stories of video games that Square Enix or any kind of publisher has put out. So I'm excited about that. But guys, thank you guys so much for joining me. This is a quick episode. I apologize. I have something I have to finish after this, so that's why.
I think we got everything anyway. So
yeah,
I think we're all good.
It was a short, like Dragonsong War wasn't that long. The ending
was like 40 quests anyway.
Yeah. Our next episode is going to be about the media tour. We're going to be talking about all the stuff that they're going to show for tooltips, job changes, all that kind of stuff. I can't wait. Fee, where can everybody find you?
People can find me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Sorenix, where I am live streaming my adventures through Shadowbringers with you and our friend Mako. And I'm also going to be playing indie games, probably doing some graphics, because I have now done something called a Google Calendar, where I'm actually organizing my life one step at a time, and hopefully I follow it. And so yeah, party.
Hell yeah.
So I'm doing that, and you can also find me on every bi-weekly Tuesday. So this week on Tuesday, this coming up, where I talk about Stadia with 2 of my friends, Aaron and Jake, over at the Game Source Network, on Speaking of Stadia, and those are the places that you can find me.
Sounds awesome. All right, Frank, where can everybody find you?
You can find me with talking to these other 2 lovely peoples on Point in Progress every week, where we talk about video games and stuff. You can find me on Twitch at Kestrel1A, where I also share some Final Fantasy kind of adventures with these 2 as well, and Mako. And then you can find me on Twitter where I talk shit about video games.
Heck yes. You can find me at Beard and the Hair pretty much everywhere. Beard and the Hair Gaming for my YouTube. And then Point in Progress for all the Final Fantasy stuff. I got some ideas for some new other Final Fantasy content that I kind of want to do. But I gotta kind of think about it first before I pitch it to these two lovely people. So, guys, thank you guys so much for joining us for episode 5 of Fantasy in Progress. We'll be back again next week. If you guys like this video, please hit that like button. If you guys like this content, hit that sub button. It really means a lot to us. But until then, we'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.